Hello, welcome back. My name is Maggie Kate Sullivan, and today we are going to be ranking on a tier list books that I have read. Famous books that I have read, whether for school, a lot of these I had to read for school, or just things that I've read in the past, and I'm going to be ranking them on a tier list because I feel like it. Before we start, we're going to look at the tier list categories. So at the very top, we have If I Could Marry This Book, I Would. This is just amazing book. I mean, the title kind of says it all. If I could marry this book, I would. Underneath that, we have Thank You, Author. Very cool. This is a good book. 4 or 5 stars, very cool. Under that is One of the Books of All Time. Like, indeed, that is one of the books of all time. That's perfect. It's a book. You did a job. Under that, you must have something better to do. Like, in order to read this book, you must have something better to do with your time than read this book, but whatever. Under that is Better Off as TikTok Wall Decor. Like the people on TikTok who they'll like rip up a book and then put the pages of the book and like make wall decor out of it, especially if they're like old books that are not being read anymore. These books are better off as that than being read. And then underneath that, I have books that are either in progress or books that I didn't finish, so I can't give like a full review of them, but that I still have a good enough idea about that I'd like to give it a ranking. So I did just quickly change the color of the very last row so that it separates it a bit more from the other ones. But starting off with Animal Farm, I had to read this one in school in 7th grade. It was fine. I think I'm going to put it in one of the books of all time. It was okay. I didn't love it. I thought that the metaphor was a little too obvious. And even though I understood the metaphor, I thought it was kind of dumb. Like, it was just animals. Next, we have Anne of Green Gables. I read this one with my mom when I was like 6 or 7 years old. And I have the entire box set of the entire series, and I've read the first few. I'm going to say you must have something better to do with your time. These are good books. The first one especially iconic, but they're really dry. It's been a while since I've read them, so maybe if I went back and read it again, I wouldn't feel that way. But it just felt very dry, and it'd be like 7 pages just describing like the way a pretty bridge looks when she's walking, and at the end of the day, it's just about a girl living in Canada, like that's it. Next, The Picture of Dorian Gray. This one is in progress. I haven't finished it so far, but also in this category, I do want to have it like horizontally ranked best to worst, in my opinion, so far. Very good so far, my impression of it. I'm really loving it, and I'm really loving the way it's written, and I've read some other poetry by Oscar Wilde before, and I've really enjoyed that, so hopefully that one will be good. Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Now, of all of the Shakespeare that I've read for school, this one was my least favorite. But it was still okay. I'm gonna put it in one of the books of all time. I will say I enjoyed it slightly more than Animal Farm. Next, The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby. This is the first one that's going up, and if I could marry this book, I would. I love this book so much. It is such a good book. I don't really know exactly why I love it. Like, the vibe is really nice. I actually have 2 copies of this book. One that I got in 10th grade that we had to annotate for school that is held together with a binder clip because the binding fell apart. And another one which is a very beautiful painted copy that I got for Christmas. So love this book. This book has my heart. I would marry this book. The Percy Jackson series. Ooh, okay. So this is one that's a bit more, a bit less of a classic. This one's a bit more of a modern book, obviously. This one is good. Thank you, Rick Riordan. Very cool. I think it's a good series. It's kind of what got me interested in Greek mythology, which has been like a pretty big part of my life. So yeah, I think this one is pretty good. There's problems with it, but at the end of the day, it's a good book. Next is Dracula. Ooh. Okay, I don't know if I should put this in did not finish or not because I got like all the way up to the very end. But we're going to say that I got pretty far. So this one, I'm also going to put in Thank You, Author. Thank you, Bram Stoker. Very cool, but better than Percy Jackson, I think. This one, it's good. Like, who doesn't love Dracula, right? The Bell Jar. I didn't finish this one. I'm only a little bit into this one so far. I think it's going to be good. I started reading it and I was just in a bad place when I was reading it, which is honestly the case for a lot of the did not finish ones. So I was like, I'm reading something happier. But it seems good. It seems good. Ooh, next is the entire Harry Potter series. Okay. We're gonna say if I could marry this book, I would, but hear me out. I am not saying I would marry J.K. Rowling. We don't like her. But the book series was so important to me. I was so obsessed with Harry Potter from the time I was like in kindergarten to like 7th or 8th grade. Like, it was my life for a really long time. So Harry Potter is going to go in the top category. Next is The Hunger Games. Ooh, okay. The Hunger Games. I'm also another one, multiple in a row of if I could marry this book, I would. I'm putting it above Harry Potter because I enjoy the book more than Harry Potter. Amazing book. I think that this will definitely be like a classic down the line. I don't know. I love it. I love the series. I used to play in my yard when I was like 12 and pretend that I was in the Hunger Games. And one time I climbed up a tree in my yard and I almost fell and I held on like by my fingertips. All the branches I was holding on like broke, and I was still holding on to one left. And if that branch had broke, I might not be here today. So that was a little side tangent. Okay, next one. If We Were Villains. Ooh, this is a really good book actually. I really like this book. I'm gonna say thank you, ML Rio. Very cool. I don't know where I want to put it in here though. I think I'm gonna put it at the top because I enjoyed reading it more than Dracula. It's like easier to read because it's written in like 2017 instead of 1897, a whole 120 years earlier or whatever. So it's a really good book. Highly recommend. Like, as a theater kid, I really liked this book. Okay, next is My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I didn't finish it. I had I listened to it on audiobook, but as I was listening to it, I got through maybe a third of it. I had such a love-hate relationship with this book because I knew that the point was that they were like all the characters were horrible, but I hated every character, especially the main character, the narrator, so much. She was just so insufferable that I couldn't read the book. All of them were horrible people. So I'm putting that at the bottom of all of this. I kind of hated this book, and that is not the fault of the author. If anything, that is like props to the author for real, for making me hate it so much. Next is The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. It was okay. I also listened to this one on audiobook. I finished it though, because it was like 2 hours long. And it was good. It was good. It wasn't amazing. I was a little confused by it. The meaning was just kind of funny to me. So I'm going to put it in one of the books of all time, but I definitely enjoyed it more than reading Julius Caesar because, like, Shakespeare's kind of hard to read. Yeah. Next is Of Mice and Men. I had to read this in my freshman year of high school for my English class. And I'm also going to put this one in one of the books of all time. Better than Animal Farm, probably better than Julius Caesar, but not quite as good as The Metamorphosis. It was good. I liked it. There was a lot of symbolism that I really did enjoy, but I've never been a huge fan of like anything that has to do with like gold mining and traveling and farming and that entire like vibe, which is very prevalent there. So that's just not interesting to me. But it was a good book. Next is To Kill a Mockingbird. Also had to read this one in my freshman year of high school. Yeah, I think I had to read this right after Of Mice and Men. It was good. I think it's definitely one of the books of all time. Probably just beneath Of Mice and Men. Next is The Odyssey. Whew, I did not finish this one, but I have studied it a lot. I've watched the movie. I mean, I'm going to put it like here because I mean it is so influential. Like the idea of like a hero's journey, and also the word Odyssey comes from this. So this is pretty influential. Okay, next is Twilight. Twilight is kind of like my guilty pleasure as far as books, and like I don't even know, like Twilight is my guilty pleasure. And I know that it's like bad or whatever, and it's not like proper literature. I don't care. I will lay down my life for this book. Maybe that's being a little bit dramatic, but we're definitely going to put it. I wouldn't say that I'd marry this book if I could, but I'm definitely going to put it, high up. Thank you, Stephanie Meyer. Very cool. I love that book. It's written surprisingly well for being what it is. Next, Fahrenheit 451, and we have the first in the better off as a TikTok wall decor category. I had to read this book also freshman year. I had to read a lot of books freshman year. I hated this book. Now, you don't have to agree with me. A lot of my friends at the time and now still do not agree with me on this. I thought it was dumb. I also wasn't there for like half of the time that we were reading it, so I was confused the whole time, so maybe I'm a little bit biased because of that. But I didn't like this book. It was like the robot dog thing was really confusing to me, and it was kind of like technology is going to be bad in the future. And like it was, I don't know, it was just kind of pointless to me. Like, don't burn books. Yeah, that's it. Don't burn books, but you can use them as TikTok wall decor, which is what I'm going to be doing with Fahrenheit 451. Just kidding, I wouldn't do that. Okay, next. The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This one's maybe not as famous as some of the other ones in here, but if I could marry this book, I would. I read this book like all the time around Halloween, like every year for a few years now. I've read it around Halloween time. It is such a good book. It's so like emotional, and it's also like a little spooky, and I love spooky. I read it the first time when I was like 12 or 13, so I'm really blown away by it. Something about like the whole magic of it while still also being like a serious novel. Um, I really love it. It's a really good book. If you haven't read it, I would recommend it. It's a good Halloween time book. Next is The Outsiders. This is one of the ones that I read on here first as far as for school goes. I had to read this book in 6th grade. So I was 11 or 12 years old. I had to read it in spring, so I was 12. Now, to me, it just reminds me of getting food poisoning because my mom read it to me because I couldn't read it to myself because I had food poisoning. But other than that, I think it was good. I think that like it's better when you consider that the author was like 15 years old when she wrote this. Like when you read it, you're thinking this was written by like a 30-year-old man, not a 15-year-old girl, and that's just amazing. So, thank you. Very cool. I didn't enjoy it as much as Percy Jackson, so we're gonna put it slightly underneath that, but it was really cool. That's a really cool book. They also just made it into a musical, which I haven't seen, but I have a friend who saw it on Broadway, which is really cool. Next, The Secret History. Okay. So, me and my friend read this kind of together, and it is my friend's favorite book of all time. It is not my favorite book of all time. I think that there were some problems with it, but I did like it. It was really good. So I think I'm gonna put it. The real question is, did I enjoy it more or less than If We Were Villains? I think that as far as actually just reading it and the experience of reading it, I liked If We Were Villains more because these are very similar books. But I do think that it is a slightly better book than If We Were Villains. So these are like tied right here. I'll put it right above it. Next, The Stranger by Albert Camus, or Albert Camus if you're pretentious. I don't know how I felt about this book. I kind of hated it. I'm gonna put it in you must have something better to do. But I wish I could put it like here. Anne of Green Gables does not deserve to have to sit next to The Stranger. I understand the philosophy. I understand the existentialism of it. I just didn't like it. I thought it was lazy. I thought he was just kind of a lazy douchebag. He was like, I don't really love my girlfriend because love doesn't matter. It's like, girl, find somebody else. You deserve better than this, but whatever. I thought it was kind of boring. It was interesting. Not my favorite. All right, next is Macbeth. Ooh, Macbeth. This one was fun. I read this one just this year for school. Um, I think it was slightly better than Julius Caesar, but right next to it. Actually, I'm gonna put it one step above To Kill a Mockingbird. Macbeth invented the knock knock joke. Like, it's gonna get a better spot than Julius Caesar, which is just like recounting a historical event. Ooh, next. Okay, we only have a few left. Divergent. Divergent. Now, this is a book that I have not read in a very long time, but I absolutely loved it in middle school. This whole trilogy. The movies are atrocious. Like the ending of the movies were completely different than the ending of the books. So that wasn't cool. The books were okay. I don't know how well they were written, and they definitely weren't as good as the Hunger Games as far as like meaningfulness goes, but I did like the idea. I always loved the idea of like being sorted and like organized, and I think that's like a, the natural like ADHD urge to sort things and categorize them, like Hogwarts houses, for example, or the Divergent, whatever they're called, factions, I think. Um, and that tickled a spot in my brain that I really liked. So I'm going to say that I enjoyed it. Ooh. It's like tied with Percy Jackson. I'm gonna say it's not as good as Percy Jackson, even if I enjoyed it more at the time, but it's gonna go right here. So, and that's not shade on the outsiders, but that's just how I felt about it. Next is Romeo and Juliet. Of all of the Shakespeare I have read, Romeo and Juliet is my favorite. Um, some people may hate on me for that. I don't really care. They're like, no, it's a problematic relationship. I don't care. Okay, there's worse. There's been way worse in fiction. Or like, they were stupid. They could have survived. Well, that's the point. It's a tragedy. Everyone's supposed to die in a tragedy. Um, but it's somewhere in here, you guys. Okay, the movie was really good with Leonardo DiCaprio, but I don't know if that made the story itself really good. So I think I'm gonna put it. Oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna put it like right here because I really like the storyline. I think that there's a lot that can be done that's really cool. I think that it kind of created all of these like romance tropes that maybe nowadays we kind of look at like cringe, but look how long they've lasted. Even I mean, like literally, Twilight would not exist without Romeo and Juliet. So, all right. Ooh, and finally, A Wrinkle in Time. This is a good book. So I read it first, and I want to say like fourth grade. I got it as a gift in like a Secret Santa book exchange that we did in my fourth grade class. And then I got the entire series. There's 5 books in the series in like a box set. And I think I gave away the single book that I got because then I had the series. And I made it through the first few. The third book was like getting weird. There was like something about a weird like unicorn, and I didn't really get it. Maybe I'll go back to that one day. But I'm gonna put it in. It is really one of the books of all time, that's for sure. But it's a little bit better than that. Okay, maybe I could put it like the very best book of all time. I don't know, but I enjoy it more than. This is hard because are we talking about the series as a whole, or just the individual book? Because the first book is like amazing. I would definitely put it up in this like orange category, but the series as a whole is just fine. So just the first book, I'm gonna put here between Romeo and Juliet and If We Were Villains because it is not as good as these ones that we're getting to up here, but I think it's more enjoyable than these ones. There's like a quantum mechanics to it that's good. I saw the movie in theaters when it came out with a friend of mine. All right, this is our final tier list. Let's kind of looking it over real quick and seeing if I agree with it. So, if I could marry this book, I would. We have Great Gatsby, Hunger Games, Harry Potter, Neil Gaiman. Okay, I agree with that. Thank You, author, very cool. Twilight, Secret History, If We Were Villains, Wrinkle in Time, Romeo and Juliet, Dracula, Percy Jackson, Divergent, and The Outsiders. Okay. One of the books of all time, Kafka of Mice and Men, Macbeth, To Kill a Mockingbird, Julius Caesar, Animal Farm. Yeah, okay. You must have something better to do. Anne of Green Gables and The Stranger. I feel like, looking at this now, I definitely liked the first Anne of Green Gables book better than Animal Farm. Like, when we're looking at it, I don't know, it's not that deep. We're just gonna leave it. And then Better Off as TikTok Wall Decor. I didn't expect Fahrenheit 451 to be the only one on there, I'll be honest. I thought that there'd be more on there. I mean, I haven't finished these ones down here, so all of these theoretically could, have more added to them. If we have to rate them, not like if I have to rate those ones so far, I would say that Dorian Gray would be probably somewhere, probably like up here, maybe, like in this area, or maybe up here. I don't know. The Odyssey is pretty similar to Romeo and Juliet in how like historic it was, even if it's not your favorite. The Bell Jar, I'd probably put as like, thank you, Sylvia Plath. Very cool. Sylvia Plath is an icon. Um, and then My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I'd probably say you must have something better to do. Like, I don't understand what anybody is really. Oh my gosh, this is gonna sound like such an old grandma thing to say, but I don't really understand what anybody is gaining from reading something that's just depressing. Um, I have a dark joke that I've made with my friends about this book, and I don't know if YouTube will let me say it, but I'm not monetized yet, so I'm just gonna say it. So in the book, it takes place in the year 2000. They live in New York City. One of the characters, her like boyfriend, horrible person, like total douchebag, works in the World Trade Center. And I said to my friends when I was talking about this, I was like, I hope that he works there for another year. And I hope that they're all like really close by in a year from now. And I low key hope that they all die in 9/11. Am I allowed to say that? Is that like too bad for YouTube? I don't know. But I'm not monetized yet, so it's fine. What are they gonna do? Demonetize me? Well, if you agree or disagree with me on any of these, I'd love to hear your reasoning. Not your hate, but your reasoning. I've been getting some nice comments recently, and I really appreciate that. That looked like I was flipping off, but it was supposed to be a half of a heart. Yeah, if you have any other like recommendations for maybe books that you think I should read, or maybe books that you assume that I've read but haven't put on there, I don't know. Like, this isn't all the books I've ever read in my life, this isn't even my favorite books. These are just the famous ones. Maybe I'll do a different video of like my favorite books and book recommendations, because I really do like reading. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I've been trying. I've been busy recently, which is why I haven't made as many videos. And this one just like came to me, like as an idea. It's like literally past 11 p.m. right now, and I'm still recording because I was like, I have to make this now. And making this template, it kept reloading and it kept deleting it. Got very upset about that. It's okay. But I have a few ideas in mind for videos that I'm making. I have a video essay that I have all scripted. I just haven't recorded it. And I still want to get some more questions for a Q&A video. I have a few, but I'd love some more. I can always make them up too. Like that one picture of the girl who's like Q&A, but it's just me because nobody likes me. I could do that. Okay, thank you. You'll see me next time.